And we look forward to Mr. Saleem Beg to take it forward, State Convener, Jammu and Kashmir. His topic is the role of Jammu and Kashmir chapter in promotion of cultural heritage of Jammu and Kashmir.
Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, Member Secretary, conveners, co-conveners, and members of INTAC, a very good afternoon to you. Well, in Jammu and Kashmir, when INTAC started, we had two advantages with us. The first advantage was that the place is history, breathes history, and you can see history all over. Kashmir has a continuously recorded history of 3,000 years. Jammu, our archaeology expressly identifies Jammu with Buddhist period, with migrations, with historic roots, with medieval religious architecture. Advantage one. Advantage two, nothing much had been done till INTAC arrived in Jammu and Kashmir. And a virgin territory, even baby steps were noticed or recognized. So we started with these two advantages. And General Gupta, who at that point in time was chairman of the chapters division, then he became chairman of INTAC, has been part of this journey along other respective heads of divisions in the INTAC, and I owe thanks to them for the work which we have done. Besides the people who have been working with us, we have a permanent office in Srinagar, we have a team, we have our own people from accounts to architecture to history, and whatever we have been able to do is because of the local support which we got, both from the government and the civil society. Not many complaints on that account. Of course, we have done certain things, but a lot needs to be done. So I will straight away go to some of the works which we have done, because I know time will not permit me to relate a history of about 18 years of work. We started with the first project, which was funded by UNESCO, for restoration of one of the oldest museums of the country and the oldest museum of our state, which is the Sri Pratap Singh Museum. Under UNESCO program, we digitized, documented collections. The building itself is a heritage building way back in 19th century, built as Mehman Khana by the Dogra rulers. That is the time when we also started listing with the support of head office. We didn't have much of a local expertise, and it goes to the credit of head office. They also helped us in assembling a team in Srinagar, and we did the first listing of the buildings in Srinagar, about 900 buildings. We are also able to publish this listing by the name of Cultural Resource Mapping of Srinagar City in 2 volumes. One of the better published or better exposed listings. We also subsequently worked with University of Illinois in one of their programs, which is 3 Shalimars. So Srinagar is a Shalimar, there's a Shalimar in Lahore, and there's a Shalimar in Delhi. I had the privilege of traveling to Texas to the university. We spent some time, we had a workshop with them. There has been some constant engagement with the university on this subject. We've also worked in Leh with the international NGO which is known as Tibet Heritage Fund, and we built a Central Asian Museum in Leh. Those of you who visit Leh must make it a point to see this museum, both in terms of the collections and also in terms of the building structure, which was built by this wonderful architect from Netherlands, Mr. Andre Alexander, who died after that. We also worked with Prince Claus Fund on a project in Srinagar, which was conservation of a shrine in downtown Srinagar. We worked with German Embassy on 2 projects. These were funded by German Embassy. One of the projects was restoration of the historic paper mache work in the Mughal garden at Shalimar. We also worked with them, in fact, worked in the sense that they provided the financial support for conservation of Oont Kadal. It's a bridge just, I'll show you the photographs, in the middle of the lake, which was broken, and it was in a ruinous state, and it was rebuilt, restored, or by intact sometime in 2020. We have been working with different governmental and non-governmental agencies. With Ministry of Tourism, we did a major project for conservation of plant Mughal gardens. We also did a couple of DPRs. One of the bigger DPRs are for a natural landscape area which is known as Bangas Valley. We prepared a proposal, a full-fledged DPR for declaring the Bangas Valley as a biodiversity reserve. Nothing much happened beyond the documentation, except that we got a letter of appreciation from the Ministry of Culture that time, the Minister of Tourism, for having done a good report. We have also been NGO partners for a scheme of Ministry of Tourism, which was under implementation in 2010, which is the Rural Tourism Scheme. We partnered with them as NGO partners for about 20 tourist villages. And in these tourist villages, we were their software partners. Now that scheme has been scrapped or repackaged in another scheme. We have also, a lot of thinking has gone into engaging youth with heritage. We can't run away from this fact now that if you really want to bring a societal change, you can't run away from school system, because knowledge pours through schools now, not only to the children, it also pours into the families through these schools. So we were able to source a major project funding from Sir Dorabji Tata Trust. This is a very unique project, and this project is named as Art Integrated Learning. So this project was implemented in 100 schools in 4 districts, 2 in Jammu, 2 in Kashmir. The project in its preliminary pilot stage ran for a year, in fact 2 years. As a main project, it ran for 3 years. We trained 1,000 teachers in government schools in these 4 districts, 20,000 children, with the best quality teaching resource we have available within the country. In fact, within North India, let me say that. The project essentially meant teaching the curriculum through the medium of art. So we had someone teaching theater, someone teaching drama, somebody teaching creative writing. So we used to do 1 workshop in 15 days per school, and we did 100 workshops in each school, which involved teachers. And as I said, about 20,000 children were trained through this workshop. It was a major effort, appreciated by all. The advantage of this effort was that we left behind a resource in the institution in which we worked. Like, we left 800 teachers within the governmental school system in the state of J&K, who were continuing to work with their classes, with their students, with the children on the program. Basically, it was imparting knowledge, a transfer of knowledge to these teachers and children. I won't go deep into the details, though there are details which need to be told to people who have not had the advantage of such workshops. We have worked with state government departments of tourism, departments of floriculture, school education. We also worked with a couple of foundations, including Rajiv Gandhi Foundation on education. They came up with a heritage manual, a wonderful manual, after the program which we coordinated with them. So knowing the paucity of time, I would now like to show you some of the projects which we have done. This was the first ever conservation project which was undertaken in the city of Srinagar for a mosque built somewhere in 1471, an abandoned mosque. And perchance we got to know that this mosque will now be demolished because it's no longer in use. It was in an almost ruinous state, and they wanted to build a shopping complex, which generally is the first thing which occurs to them. They want to remove a monument. It has to be a commercial establishment. But we were able to persuade them not to demolish it, and then with the assistance from Department of Tourism, which was my own department at that point in time, we were able to rebuild this mosque. I would like to show you some pictures. This is what had happened to the mosque. A lot of seepage, it was closed. There was moist ingress of animals, dogs, etc. And when we handed over the mosque back, this was the condition of the part which I showed to you. That was before, and this is after. This is before, and this is after we gave it to them. This is one of the corners before conservation. This is when it was restored. No new structure was introduced. We only removed the inappropriate additions in the structure and also strengthened it. There was a historic temple, a Shiva temple, an 8th to 9th century temple at a very famous lake close to Srinagar, which is known as Manasbal Lake. And this is what was supposed to have been the temple. So this was the temple. It was in an open area with some cement boundary on a corner, looking very insignificant through this photograph. But we knew from historical records that at one point in time, this used to be a very famous and a very significant temple. It, in fact, represents a period of temple architecture in Kashmir where there isn't much of carvings around in the temple. And finally, state government at that some point in time thought that this should be protected. They put a fencing which did not stand. But what engaged our mind was that a temple could never be on the corner like this. So there had to be some investigation on the exact location of the temple. We worked on it, and after a long process of both research and work at site, this is how this temple came back. Temple has not been removed from its own place. This was always there. It's only the surroundings which were cleared or which were thoughtfully redone. That is how this temple looks, and now it is a major source for the lake as well, because this spring in which this temple exists was also blocked because of non-use or wrong use. We also worked on the conservation of Mughal gardens of Kashmir. In fact, this project started under the guidance of Delhi office, and we were the first to do a conservation proposal plan and guidelines for Kashmir Mughal gardens, where we did long-term conservation plan, we did digitization and documentation of many features, we did plans for conservation works. Oh my God. So you have not been as generous to me as to others. Anyway, I'll try to, but you will have to give me 1 or 2 minutes now. This is before conservation at the Mughal gardens. This is how it became after we worked on it. This is another ruin in the Shalimar garden, and this is stage 2 when we cleaned it. This is stage 3 when we restored it. This is the work which we did in Mughal gardens. This is a paper mache with German embassy. This is when we finally put it up again. Well, I will not go into these proposals, and we have no time. I will now go to the work. This was a shrine which was gutted to the ground, and we had digitized this shrine before it got burned, luckily 2 months before it got burned. So we were asked by the state government to redo it, and this is what we did out of it. I had mentioned wound kadal, so I would like to show you this is what it was, and this is what had happened after Intact worked on it. This is a project which was finally awarded by UNESCO, and it got UNESCO Asia Pacific Award in 2020. We prepared a dossier for Srinagar city for its enlisting in the network of UNESCO Creative Cities. This dossier was accepted in 2021, and Srinagar was designated as a city in craft and media. This is the message which Prime Minister made after this dossier was accepted by UNESCO. So I will not go into it now, no time. These are the publications. Well, we have another chapter in Jammu which I would like to mention the work this chapter has done. This chapter is very active in Jammu in advocacy, in conservation, with the support of HEX division, in training teachers and students. This is one of the projects which is on the dying crafts of Jammu. The convener of the Jammu chapter is showing the willow work to the guests around. They have done a couple of craft workshops and some very significant craft workshops on the dying or dead crafts of Jammu. And one of these workshops has been done on pottery, on crafts, on cuisine. This is a session on crafts. This again is a session on pottery, something which is lost in Jammu, and at one point in time it was quite grounded craft in Jammu. These are the World Environment Day, which Jammu has celebrated with the support of state government organizations, with their own members. Each and every member is fairly active in Jammu on these things. This is one of the workshops on the cuisine, which Jammu has been undertaking in a college, the Government College of Women. This is the one Mahatsu, which the chapter celebrated with the University of Jammu. There's some of the pictures where plantation drive has been taken. And you will see in all these photographs, the most prominent person leading the whole activity is the convener of the chapter. He's also here. These are some of the things which they do with children, successfully noticed by everybody. When Prime Minister visited the UT in one of the exhibitions, Intact put up a stall, and that's when Prime Minister visited the stall. Heritage Weeks, Heritage Quiz, and many activities which this chapter has done over a period of years. And I have only been able to, I'll have a peep through a window. There's a huge work, and I'm sure, given the environment or the kind of environment which we have got, most of the chapters would be able to do it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing the diversity and the excellence of the work.